You may be seated. God is good all the time. God is still good to the fans of Argentina. Just saying that the Lord is still in control. All right? Hope is not lost. So we're going to, I can imagine that we're going to have a lot of, name dropping throughout the entire proceedings for people who are football fans. Right? Should be very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned before, why we are here, just to give you some information that the objectives of the Civil Service Week Forum are to further strengthen the established public and private partnerships, to also highlight the public sector initiatives towards the development of public servants, to inform Jamaicans at large about the efforts and contributions of public servants, and to also re-energize, I love that word, re-energize and mobilize public servants towards a brighter Jamaica. And that is what we are about, right? For us here now, for our children, for our grandchildren, it is important for us to serve towards a brighter Jamaica. We want at this time acknowledge a gentleman who has served. And he was crowned the Civil Servant of the Year, Middle Management category for the Administrator General's Department. He's here with us this morning and we had to acknowledge him. Oliver Morris, please stand for me, sir. Congratulations, and we thank you so much for your contributions. I'm very, very happy that we paused to acknowledge your contribution, and we cannot wait to see what else you will do. All right, thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, to give us some more information about Civil Service Week 2022 and also the public forum for today, please help me to welcome Lorna Phillips, Principal Director for Employees Relations Branch Strategic Human Resources Management Division, to give us greetings from the Civil Service Steering Committee. Please make her welcome.
Determination gets you a long way. Chelsea Clinton. Master of Ceremonies, Miss Debbie Bissoon. Honorable Marsha Smith, Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. Permanent Secretary, Honorable Audrey Sewell of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, as well as the Office of the Prime Minister. Mr. Zachary Harding, Executive Chairman, Delta Capital Partners Limited. Mr. O'Neill Grant, President of the Jamaica Civil Service Association. Fellow public servants, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, those who are joining us online, good morning. Good morning. Today, I greet you with a sense of joy that we are having our second Civil Service Week public forum, one of the positive takeaways from the COVID era. Last year, we relied heavily on the technology, and so we were forced to pivot, and this resulted in a new event to celebrate Civil Service Week, which we are now participating in, the public forum. This forum allows us to bring great minds together from the public and the private sector around a common theme. And yes, as we had to pivot, we made lemonade with our lemons. And I don't know about you, but I love me some lemonade. Last year, we couldn't all meet in person. However, today we are able to put the public back in the public forum. While we are streaming live, this will facilitate those who are not able to share with us physically. Here is where we get to show life after COVID, how resilient we are as public service, and how unyielding we are in a crisis. We have indeed come a long way. I'm here to bring you greetings. Greetings, one and all. So let me make way for those who will provoke our thoughts as I welcome you all to our second public forum and pray for you an enriching session. And this is where I put my clip. In tribute to the World Cup 2022, I leave you with a quote from Kevin Prince Boateng. A dream doesn't become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. Let's forge ahead.
Thank you so much, Miss Phillips. Love that quote. Love that quote. A dream doesn't become reality through magic, right? It requires so much more. And ladies and gentlemen, that will lead us right into our next presenter, because this lady has been doing so much, not by magic at all, but through all the things we've listed: hard work, determination, consistency, going above and beyond all the time. Since her early days in St. Anne, she was educated at institutions such as Westwood High, Brownstown Community College, and the Norman Manley Law School. She was admitted to practice law in 1997, and her areas of practice included general legal advice, probate, conveyancing, and civil litigation. She also served as a member of the Industrial Disputes Tribunal in the capacity of deputy chairman from October 2017 to February 2019, and as a chairman from March 2019 to August 2020. She was also elected to represent the constituency of Northeast St. Anne. Talk about service, in September 2020. And on September 14, 2020, Ms. Smith was appointed Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. Please help me welcome this lady. I hear Zachary right there giving me some sound effects already. The Minister Marsha Smith, Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance, our first speaker. Please make her welcome.
Good morning. I'm telling you, Debbie has a wonderful way of making you feel welcome before you come to the podium. Yes. And so I duly acknowledge you, our esteemed and forever vivacious Master of Ceremonies, Miss Debbie Bissoon. Give her a round of applause. Honorable Audrey Sewell, Mega Permanent Secretary, because she controls the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. And as an MP, you know that those two ministries are the most important to your constituents. Yes. Then I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Zachary Harding, Executive Chairman and co-founder of Delta Capital Partners, Mr. O'Neill Grant, President of the Jamaica Civil Service Association, members of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service who are present here, persons from other ministries as well, departments and agencies, and I'm very happy to see that we have in our midst current and former persons who have received the Civil Servant of the Year award. So thank you, esteemed civil servants, for gracing our midst today. Members of the media, we can't do without you. We are in the age of information, and so we thank you for recording for prosperity this particular event. And all our specially invited guests, especially those among us who are civil servants or public servants, good morning. Yes, yes. You know, after a prayer like that, we have to say good morning, because all the bases were covered. Yes. Thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful prayer. You know, I am going to have to run back the stream just to hear it once again. So thank you, Mrs. Scott Gray. Yes. It is my pleasure to once again speak at the Civil Service Public Forum. Last year, when we were here, the focus was on anchoring technology for sustainable growth and efficiency. And we concentrated on how technology within the public sector had been used to help the country pivot through the challenges of the pandemic. Now, for the past 3 decades, the government of Jamaica has attempted various ways of modernizing and transforming the public sector with varying results. And the most recent phase of this continued transformation has been through the establishment of the Transformation Implementation Unit, which started in 2017, and this is hosted under the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. Now, there are 5 main pillars of this transformation: human resource management, compensation management, rationalization of public bodies, public sector efficiency, and ICT, shared corporate services. So in my address last year, when we focused on technology, we would have shared with the forum the efforts made by that unit in transforming HR management through the My HR Plus. This, we had explained last year, is an integrated HR and payroll management information system. Now, from that My HR system, I'm going to go straight into this year's theme, the public sector forging ahead with determination, because this year we have placed particular attention on that second pillar of transformation, which is compensation management. And the My HR Plus has been a valuable tool to that particular compensation reform. And this shows that in order to maximize the benefits of public sector transformation, we can no longer silo the operations of government. And so we are happy that this year the theme is as it is, forging ahead with determination, because this theme is aligned with the government's current thrust to move ahead with financially improving the lives of public servants by way of the new public sector compensation system. I was very happy last week when the Ministry of Finance, together with its union partners, we were able to sign several memoranda of understanding. And these memoranda cover approximately 60,000 employees, and we are well on the way to seeing the entire public sector being transformed. It has been my honor and my privilege to serve as the Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, because as a child, the person that I modeled myself after were always civil servants, public servants. The Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dr. Nigel Clark, is committed to ensuring that we implement a public sector compensation that is fair, transparent, and sustainable. Because at the end of the day, we cannot rock the finances for the sake of compensation. And he is determined to ensure that each and every public sector worker is better off financially. To all public sector workers, I say, be patient. There's always some shifting around when there's transformation, but in the end, everything eventually settles down. I must take time to really applaud all the different unions who have passionately represented their members through this whole process. And I acknowledge the trust they have shown in the government by signing this agreement. For those who have not yet signed as yet, I encourage you to do so. I am confident that this is a step in the right direction as we continue to change the various aspects of public sector transformation. So as we continue to forge ahead with determination, we have reviewed and updated several categories of leave. The first one is the maternity leave. We have increased it from 40 days to 60 days. But I'm waiting for the applause for the ones I'm going to mention next. Paternity leave. Groundbreaking and timely, because for a strong society, we need strong fathers. And the introduction of paternity leave is showing that the government of Jamaica sees the importance of fatherhood in the parenting of a child. And then I'd also like to highlight family leave. You know, I'm from the country, and it is a place where you'll hear that Miss So-and-so or Auntie Ima or Mas John took somebody's child who was in need and raised them. There are many Jamaicans who have been formally and informally fostered. And so with the introduction of family leave for adoptive parents, we are really being in sync with what is on ground in our communities and how we parent. And these changes are going to come into effect January 1st, 2023. So I'm going to give a little shout out and help to the persons who deal with our foster children. This is an opportunity for other Jamaicans who have the capacity and the ability to take on foster a child. If you are a public servant, you are going to be given that opportunity to get those weeks to settle that child in before you go back to work fully. And this is why we are trying to modernize the public sector in real ways to meet the needs of public servants, not just in terms of compensation, but also in overall quality of life. And we are also forging ahead to ensure that our public servants, that they are compensated in ways that are competitive with the local private sector as well as the international market. And these changes will ensure that we are able to retain the talent locally, which will ensure an efficient, simplified public sector. Now, Dr. Clark has been particularly focused on service. At the end of the day, all public servants are service-oriented in what we deliver. And so excellent service is something that the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service encourages. And in this regard, we now have a new customer support portal. And this portal allows customers to get responses to their queries quickly. And I am encouraging all of you to take advantage of the technological advancement present at the ministry. You would have heard our MC earlier ask us to take out our phones to ensure that we are following the Ministry of Finance. Exciting things are happening there. Exciting things. Yes, man. Now, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, in reviewing the economic performance of the country, has shown that we, as an economy, that we have been building back steadily. According to the PIOJ, during the April to June quarter, the country's economy increased by 5.7% when compared to a similar period last year. The April 2022 Labor Force Survey conducted by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica has also reflected an improvement in the labor market performance, with the unemployment rate decreasing by 3.0 percentage points lower than the rate recorded in April 2021. This data is proof that Jamaica's economy continues to progress post-COVID-19 and remains stable as the world continues to be impacted by the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Now, notwithstanding all that I've said, I just want to point out that as we are continuing on that path to sustainable growth and development, we are still mindful of the importance to guarantee that our public sectors live a better quality of life, while they are working and also when they retire. Our workforce must be rewarded adequately, not only to prevent brain drain, but also to improve the quality of service delivered. We know that reward sweetens labor. Isn't that so, President? And we know that the efficiencies within the public sector has a ripple-on effect in the general economy as well. Now, I'm going to close because I am waiting to hear from Mr. Harding. No pressure, because so I leave you hanging so that when he comes on, you are ready to receive. But for truth, the public service is transforming, and it's transforming for the better. And we are forging ahead because the public service is a foundation of our country. Everything else is built upon it. It is a part of our country that has remained stable. Governments come and go, but the public sector remains stable and is very important to the overall well-being of our fellow citizens. So your well-being is important for persons who may not have a family member who is connected to the public sector in an intimate way as being an employee, because those development goals that we speak a lot about, the 2030 goals, the achievements of those goals are going to be riding on the backs of you, our civil servants. You are the ones, our teachers, our medical professionals, our police, our administrative civil servants, our engineers, all our technocrats. You are the ones that are going to ensure that Jamaica is able to meet those 2030 development goals. And so I am truly honored and blessed to have been able to address you today. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask that we please put our hands together once more for Minister Smith, please? Minister Marsha Smith, State Minister in the Ministry of Finance. Thank you so much, Minister. It is truly encouraging to hear about the growth of our economy and the transformations to come. And you're absolutely right that our public sector is a foundation and the backbone of this country. And our goals for 2030, they're still alive. They are. Hello, somebody? They're still alive, and we can forge ahead to accomplish them, because one thing about us Jamaicans, anything we set our mind towards, you know this, right? We accomplish. And let me tell you something I'm very excited to hear about. You see that maternity leave? I know the new mommies right now, right? I just celebrated recently one of my friends who just announced her pregnancy, and I'm sure she's going to be very excited to hear that she has all of 60 days leave, and that daddy as well will be getting leave. So daddies, please to try and YouTube how to change pampers, how to birth babies, you know, the right way to mix, you know, things like that. Right, it's a time when daddies get hands-on even more. We're very, very happy to hear that those considerations, those transformations are happening right now in this country, because we want to stay here. Jamaica is our home, and we want it to grow and prosper in the right way, especially for our people. So ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you. Please put your hands together once more for our minister. We want to take the time out to acknowledge and say big up to Linda Willis, all the way from Wales. She's joining us on the JIS Facebook page, and also Anne-Marie Duff from Jamaica. They are joining us online, so welcome again to our online community. They're watching. I see persons watching on our YouTube channel as well, also on the Ministry of Finance's Facebook page as well. So thank you so much. Please continue to chime in using the hashtags that we announced earlier on. I'll see if I can find them again to let you know. It is so simple. It is hashtag CSW2022, hashtag CSW Forum, and also Forging Ahead. All right. Thank you so much. So here we go. We are on our way, and we're about to introduce a mega permanent secretary. I'm going to take that. You know what I say? It's something permanent, right? You cannot move it. How are you going to move it? Permanent secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, she currently serves as the permanent secretary in both the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and also the Office of the Prime Minister. She holds a master's. I'm going into her business. Hush, they gave it to me and I have to tell them. She holds a master's in human resource development and also a bachelor's in management studies from the University of the West Indies, UWI. She also has an advanced certificate in educational administration and leadership jointly from the Swedish Institute for National Development and the Vocational Development Institute. I'm talking about the one, the only Mrs. Sewell, who also pursued studies in research methodology from the University of Michigan. Now, Mrs. Sewell taught, if you didn't know, she's not just a permanent secretary, but she's been around the block. She knows this thing. Trust me, she's been there. She taught at the Denhamtown Secondary School, Arden High School, Girls Town, Jamaica, and also at the Heart Trust NTA, where she became Director of Academics. She also lectured at the Department of Management Studies at UWI. She's a former board chairman of the University College of the Caribbean, UCC, for both institutions. She also served as an external examiner. She served as principal director of the Justice Ministry's Justice Training Institute from 2004 to 2008. In 2008, she served as permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education and was subsequently reassigned to the then Ministry of Transport, Works and Housing in 2011. I'm not going to cut this short. Mrs. Sewell sat on several boards of public bodies, including Students' Loan Bureau, National Council on Education, Overseas Examination Council, or Commission rather, the UWI Technical Advisory Committee, and the Jamaica Customs as well. She serves currently as a board member at the Northern Caribbean University. In 2010, she received the Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Education and was conferred in 2014 with the Commander of Order of Distinction CD for outstanding public service in the fields of education, justice, transport, works, and housing. I told you she's been around the block, right? She was also conferred with the Order of Jamaica, OJ, on August 6, 2022 this year for her distinguished contribution to the public service. It gives me great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome the Honorable Audrey Sewell, OJ CDJP, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and the Office of the Prime Minister.
I'm still recovering. Thank you so much, Debbie. Soon, moderator. Protocols have been established, but permit me to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Marcia Smith, Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, along with her other colleagues who have already been mentioned. Mr. O'Neill Grant, my partner in the work, yes, President, Jamaica Civil Service Association. We go back a long way. Yes, and Mr. Harding, who has already been introduced. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, those here present and in virtual land, good morning. And members of the media, how can I forget my own people? I see them from JIS and all over. Thank you for being here. And let me also add my congratulations and commendation to my staff of the RGD Civil Servant of the Year. Congratulations. You make us proud. The Office of the Prime Minister is very proud. Yes. Excuse me, Miss Lona. I thought somebody had said RGD. Well, it's still me because I was there at Justice, yes. And up to recently, I gave somebody her number and said she's my friend and my colleague. So I still taking credit because we once served together. So pardon me, Adrian. You know that I didn't mean any harm to thief anything away from you, Miss Lona. It is my pleasure to join the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service in commemorating Civil Service Week 2022, and more specifically to participate in this. Okay, yes, when he comes. And more specifically to participate in this public forum. Let me pause to acknowledge the arrival of Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark, Minister of Finance and the Public Service. And Minister, please do come and say hello. Yes.
Morning, everybody. I was downstairs at another function for, CARICOM tax, a TAJ function, CARICOM tax coordination and collaboration. I knew Minister Smith is representing me here, but the civil service is so important to me, that being downstairs and knowing that this was happening, I had to just come and offer some, just to say hello. And I couldn't drive out of the building knowing that Brother O'Neill is here. I had to come and see Brother O'Neill. So just wishing you a wonderful week. I know that we have the Long Service Awards and we have many other things this week. I see the representative from the Ministry of Finance there, yes, who makes his presence felt within the compound of the Ministry of Finance. And yes, indeed, and others. Just have a wonderful week, and know that you are dear to the hearts of all of us who, in my position, and Jamaica in general. Have a wonderful week. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Minister. I want to commend the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, led by Ms. Darlene Morrison, our Financial Secretary, along with her team, for putting this special event together, and others that have gone and are to come. I can be classified as a career public servant, seeing that I have spent most, if not, then it's all, of my years in service to Jamaica. I've served nowhere else besides the public service. And today, if you ask me, would you do it again? I would say yes. Despite the challenges, the roadblocks, the obstacles, the little pay, yes. I would do it again, not for the likes, but for the love of it, the passion that we have developed over the years for service. The public sector forging ahead with determination is a most fitting theme as we contemplate the changes that have taken place in governance and the many challenges that have accompanied those changes. And I stand here as a living testament, can tell you about the changes. I remember at one time I acted as an accounting clerk at the then Ministry of Construction and Works. And we had some big books, you see. What do you call them? And when income tax time, and it wasn't a consistent income tax, it was paid by a week. And you have to go through that big book to determine how much income tax each person was to be paid. And then you have some other books. And when anything was to be done, you had to send something over to the head office to finance and accounts with a sheet of paper. And it says funds available, funds not available. You didn't have any delegated authority at that time. Everything was centralized. And today, technology, with the click of a button, I can call my finance department and ask, you know, what is the debt like? What is the accounts like today? Can we find some money to do so? Can we wire some funds? Because in those days, that word did not exist in the dictionary environment. But things have changed. And I am very happy and proud that I have lived through the changes in the civil service. I say to some people, the younger people, that I'm happy when I enter the service, and I'm happy at the time then that I will leave, because I know it is a better place than when I joined it. And we talk about determination, because through it all, we have survived, haven't we? Sure. Yes, we have survived, notwithstanding the nigglings and the complaints and everything. But we have survived, and we continue to survive. And this is because of the love and the passion and the determination. And determination increases one's chances of being successful. If you're not determined, you can't succeed, you cannot get up. You have a vision, and you just sit down and say, and pray. Because you come up with this orientation. Pray, man, and the Lord will work it out. You have to have that focus, you have to have that vision, and you have to be determined that comes what may, I am going to make it happen. And you have to have your own plan. You see me here? Growing up in a society, in a community, where, because you were not amongst the affluent, you were not going to come to anything. Right? Because you were poor, considered poor. And your own people who should have been helping you to look ahead and to forge ahead, to come out of the situation, were the ones who were trying to hold you down and to say, you see, she go on there, she not going to come to nothing. But in my head, my mother put some things in my head. She would say, the only thing that I have to give you is a good education. And that is what is going to take you out of the situation. And she did. Thank God. God bless her memories. You have to determine. And I was determined that I was going to move ahead. And sometimes, in all of that, you have to have the mental fortitude, the firmness of purpose, and the commitment, which I say, thank God, our civil servants have. And in going ahead at times, you may say, but I can't see my way. I can't go back to university. I can't go to university because the pay is so small. Start anyway. And I quote here. It says, you can't see your way? Go, Thomas Carlyle, he said, go as far as you can see. Don't stop. And when you get there, you'll be able to see further. So don't be deterred with the challenges, the noise, and all the distractions. Go as far as you can see. And when you get there, you'll be able to see further. The Lord will take over there. And in my brief discourse with you today, I want us to look at accountability, key to an efficient civil service. And I heard the minister spoke about a quality civil service. And this is something that has helped me. And I thank you for the kind remarks and all the nice things that have been said about me. But it's not an easy road. It's never, ever was an easy road. But I served in an organization where accountability was critical. It was the hallmark of that organization. And having served there for 20 years, I took the decision. People thought I was crazy. I needed to see a psychiatrist. That I was coming back, because when I left high school, I served 2 years in the civil service before I went to Teachers College. And I loved it.
the camaraderie and, and all the things and the energy. I just fell in love with it. And plus, I had relatives, including my father, who were civil servants. And after 20 years in a very successful career in an organization, it was one of the better paying organizations in this country, I decided and I said, I'm going back to the civil service. I've peaked here. And they said, leaving? And I said, yes, 20 years. And I came back in the civil service. But I got the opportunity to make, I believe, a contribution in the service that I thought at the time needed me. Because having learned so much, and I said to the person, when you're one place, you think that's the world. But when you go elsewhere, you see that there's a bigger world. And that, I took that with me in terms of the accountability. And every day more and more, we as public servants, civil servants, are being called upon to be accountable. We cannot forge ahead without accountability. Let's go. So briefly, I'll just take us through this presentation. And what does it say there? Today's seminar will focus on read with me, the individual accountability in the workplace. I did not deliver the handouts to the printer on time, so we won't be able to refer to them. It's not my fault. That's accountability, eh? Yes. And in all of this, accountability requires change. And it says, Daniel Burnock says, change can be instant, because you can just come in and say, as of today, this is how it will go. But you don't necessarily have to experience growth. Growth may be slow. We're growing as a civil service. Some of the things that have happened have taken time. We have heard about all sorts during my times. Administrative reform program, ARP, you remember them? Lorna, and then next year you come in and you hear about another one until you start to lose, memory of what really they are and where are we. So it can be slow, but guess what? We are determined in the back of our minds. The objective is improvement. Change can be a one-off event. Growth is an incremental process. I tell people, don't come and tell me that this is how it has always been. There's always a better way. And let us all look to see what we can change, even for our own personal development and well-being. I want to know that I am making a difference. I am not just there to maintain the status quo. So let us do the changes incrementally, as the minister has spoken to, the various pillars and what is being done here, and then we're going to move to there, and then we're going to, right, and I'm very happy that in all of it, they have inserted the compensation part. Yes. Change can be made by a single decision. Growth requires consistent motivation and learning. Yes, we have to be consistent with what we do, and we have to also be willing to be learning. You know that as much as you all say I am good and so and so and so, it's because I learn. I avail myself to learning. I don't know anything. Lorna called me yesterday and said, Lord Jesus, this is what I don't know, Lorna. She said, I don't know why you'd say that. Because probably I may slip off the track because I don't know everything. I call my colleagues. I call Minister of Finance, probably more than anybody else. Yes. Oh, I do this. Loris, Darlene, so and so and so. I call even Mr. Grant because we're working through a transition now. And I said to him, I need to learn from you because you would have had that kind of experience already. I don't. And he came and he sat down with us and gave us some ideas. So we have to, wherever the knowledge and the information is, we have to put ourselves in a position that we don't have. We're not the font of knowledge. And we must always be learning. Change can be the beginning of growth. Growth always starts with a decision for change. And I attribute that to Daniel Burnock. Growth always starts with a decision for a change. I have grown. You all have grown, haven't you? You're not at the same stage where you started in the civil service. Huh? Even if the pay is the same, you would have learned. Yes, you'd have learned so much. And professionally. And some of you have upgraded yourselves. You know, so, yes. What is accountability? And I quote this from the Accountability Framework, Cabinet Office 2011. Accountability is an opportunity to improve behavior, productivity, outputs, outcomes, and impacts. It is an opportunity to link individual, institutional, and public performance to the formulation of outcomes and impacts in the public interest. It's an opportunity to improve behavior, productivity. You know, you have some people, you know, as far as they are concerned, they're not concerned about outcomes and results. What they are is just for you to see them and that they seem to be working hard and they are making the effort. So at the end of the day, when it's time for evaluation and you give them probably 70, that's what and they say, but PSA work so hard and make so much effort. I say, but I don't reward for effort. I reward for, results, outcome, right? That is accountability. In governance, and the vex, you know, but you don't achieve what you set out to achieve, so there can be no improvement. How you going to improve? And your effort not yielding the results. And we have to start orientating our people in that direction. We appreciate your effort. We see that you're trying, but guess what? You may have to, as we'll say in the country, wheel and come again. Realign yourself and re-strategize because it's not yielding the results. So when you should have 5% less complaints, Minister, you spoke about the customer service app and whatever, and we should have 5% less. That may be one of your indicators, your performance indicators, and you don't see any decrease. And then they will say, but I try. Yeah, you try and may appreciate it, but the fact is that we didn't have the decrease in complaints. In governance, it refers to the process as well as norms that make decision makers answerable to the ones for whom decisions are taken. Do you know that as public servants, we are answerable to the public? Yes. And that has always been. Mary can tell you, Mrs. Nichols. She can tell you at education, we told ourselves that we were accountable to the parents whose children are under our control, and we took our work seriously, very seriously. And I'll tell you a story about her. One day, see her? Not an easy lady. Yes. Yes, so we are answerable. We are being paid by the taxpayers. And some people, when they ask us questions, it's like, we feel like we should not answer them. And we feel like the phones ring and we're not to answer the phones because, and I have heard even in my own ministry, let me confess, and I'm going to deal with it, phones are ringing in a particular department and nobody wants to answer the phone because the people there are so pesty. Yes, I've got a report recently. I'm going to deal with it. Because guess what? It's those people who pay them little taxes and them GCT. Why you and I are here today. We are here to serve and we are answerable to them. We are obliged to respond to their queries. And I really want to, the Administrator General has always got good ratings over the years, Mrs. Brown, for your excellent customer service, program. Yes. When accountability works well, it enables a degree of feedback between the government and the public that it serves. Permanent secretaries are principal accounting officers and are responsible for appointing accountable officers within the ministry. Heads of entities are called officers. So they say that we are the accounting officers, even though I may have one or two issues with that, Minister. I want you to look at it when you go back, because you may have heard about my little discourse at Parliament. Yes, when at PAC, when they say I am responsible for whatever happens in agencies. I do have a little thing about that, but I'm not going to raise it here. But we are all accountable regardless. Each member of the organization has a part to play in the accountability process. Everybody has a part to play, because we all have job descriptions with job specifications, performance indicators, right? And for PSs, we have to go and we have to answer and be public spectacles, and I take that role very seriously. It's not something that I consider lightly. How I feel is that I am responsible for the systems, the implementation of the policies, and the regulations, that there must be full compliance. And yes, sometimes I dig deep. I go down. Some of them, they don't like it. I need to know what is happening in procurement, because how the system is right now, PSC not calling the officer who was responsible for awarding the contract. It's the PS has to go on account. So I have to know what is happening. And it's not because I'm controlling, but because I know the responsibility that is on my shoulders. And I can't. The first time I went to PSC, Ms. Nichols will tell you, it was my first week as PS in the Ministry of Education. And when Dr. Davies started to ask me some questions, and I am saying to him, how do you expect me to know those things that happen in the school? He said, because you're the accounting officer. That was the first shock I had in my life. The second time they sent me to come back, I didn't go. Yes, and they send his warrant or whatever for me at my house, because I said, I am not going. How me must be responsible for what happened in the schools. I don't teach I'm not the principal. I'm not in the school, running the school. But then I did a reality check, and I understood what it meant, to be the accounting officer. So I learned my lesson. And I make sure, and you'd have heard in the introduction that I lectured in leadership, management, and so. And one of the things we tell people that, leaders' responsibility is to delegate. I tell them so, but not so for me. I don't only delegate. I monitor and I follow up. I have learned from others' mistake where I know of a situation where, based on what people told a minister and a permanent secretary, the whole system was thrown into chaos. And that's a part of the learning too, We have to learn from the experiences of each other. We talk about learning. When the Auditor General's report comes out, whether my ministry is featured or not, I take it and I go through, because I want to see whatever happened elsewhere, that I can fix it, that when she comes back, I'm looking good. Yes, so we learn from each other's experiences. Successive governments have established various instruments and regulatory bodies to ensure accountability. In my day, in my entrance in the civil service, the only thing we heard about was Auditor General's report, right? We never had Contractor General, no Integrity Commission. We never had Internal Audit Division in the Ministry of Finance. We never had FID, and we never had some of in terms of the non-government entities providing oversight, asking questions. There's not a day that I don't get at least 5 queries from one of those ATI requests. People want to know. Accountability and the age of transparency. With the age of technology, citizens can gather information and form opinions. Some of it wrong too, because sometimes I sit down every day and I say, Lord, suppose somebody ever start a room on social media. How would I live? Because one time, not so long ago, we see them, somebody put about $350 million scandal at OPM contract. And I said, Lord, how am I going to get over this one now? Because once you plant the seed in people's minds, no matter what you do, you can't recover. But the only solace I had was that we never award any contract for that amount. So I say, okay, good. And it has died a natural death. And I say, thanks be to God with many prayers. So lots of information is, going out, and sometimes half-truth looks like truth. Yes, accountability therefore becomes even more important when we consider the transparent environment within which we operate. And sometimes as leaders, when we behave like we have something to hide, that's when people will come after us. So just give them the information. And if you know and you are convinced that you are doing what is right, you have nothing to worry about. I tell my staff that every day. Right won't become wrong. Just follow the rules. Yes, in one organization, they used to call me policy. And they say when they see me coming, they say, policy, I come. Because, yes. With the advent of social media and legislation, such as the Access to Information Act, citizens are seeking and receiving information at a fast rate. And for some of us, we are happy for the appeals tribunal too, because if you take the decision, and I said to staff, if you decide not to go when the tribunal is you, me sending, me not coming. When they appeal, so make sure you have the information. And for those, I say to you, and you may ask, and I remember at one of the leadership fora that you had, that I participated in, it was something entitled adaptability and thing in leadership. I don't know if you remember that, Lorna. And they said, how you manage 5 ministers? I say, you as a leader, you have to be adaptable as well, because you have to learn the various personalities. And while you may be able to, you say no, but you may say to one, it cannot happen, and it will not happen. You may have to say to one who is very sensitive and so, oh, let me check and see, and I'll get back to you. That's the way. So, you have to make sure that you are walking the straight and narrow way. So when the requests come in, you don't have sleepless nights and say, Lord, when this go out, because guess what? Whatever that goes out will be in line with the policy. You go and quarrel with the policy. So sometimes when information goes on, I said to myself, no, don't worry about that. That is for the minister to respond. That's their policy. Our responsibility is to ensure that we implement the policies in line with government's program. In recent times, we have seen an increase in participatory governance, which puts a spotlight on the operations of the civil service. And yes, we believe that they are taking set on us. And we say, but they don't have this kind of probity going on in the private sector. But the truth is the public paying us, and they have a right to know. The explosion of media has opened civil servants to external scrutiny and called for transparent, and this is Dr. Niranjan Parida, transparent accountability mechanisms in terms of outcomes and results, not processes. A lot of time we focus on the process, and you have to write up this and you have to write up that and that. We're not focusing in terms of accountability on the results, as I said before. The issues of accountability of civil servants in service delivery have come to the forefront in all dialogues regarding civil service reforms. Yes, we said that already. Issues with accountability. That there are issues, of course they are. And we quote the Prime Minister. He said, and he spoke recently at the Jamaica House Fellow function that was held for them, their exit function. He said, government institutions are partly populated by people who are not inclined to use their initiative to change the status quo, even when things are clearly not working and the system is in need of an overhaul. He noted that Jamaica is in the phase of its development where complacency issues, monitoring and evaluation have taken on an oversized role. And true, But what is wrong with that statement, though? It is fact that we are kind of overregulated, right? But then, do we actually get the opportunity to use our initiative? And another things that tell you in leadership, oh, you must take a risk as a leader and that sort of thing. But we in the civil service, when they curse us and when they complain about us, I said, but is the feedback that you have given that we are corrupt and whatever, that these mechanisms have to be put in place? So why are you complaining? This is the environment that you have helped to create. Yes. But sometimes too, people, they use something, and I tell them in my ministry. So you need, something comes up and my minister, the Prime Minister may say, yes, we have to implement a new program. The first thing some of us say, but sir, it wasn't budgeted. It's true, it's something we grew up in the civil service, it wasn't budgeted. But no, I will say to him, okay, it wasn't budgeted, but let me go look through the budget to see what we can find and what adjustments we can make. Isn't that using your initiative? Yes, and that is why government can move, and some of us really don't have any excuse, and they tell people that it wasn't in the budget. I said, get out of that kind of mindset that gone long time. And you're looking at the tree. I have to look at, as a PS, at the forest. So I look across the ministry, and the days when people hug up their budgets and say, it's my budget. And when somebody needs to go away to a conference and they say, but the money in there is mine. I can't make the person not go when we have to honor our international obligations in terms of conventions, because you have your budget, not using it, and then the 31st of March, it goes back to the consolidated fund. That is what we want. We want to free up the system, notwithstanding. And Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark, the Minister of Finance, he said, in order for us to have a modern, functioning, vibrant, plural society, public bureaucracy able to steward and take that forward. And the observation is that there's no country that has led the world without a first-class public bureaucracy. In Jamaica, we have grown to believe that bureaucracy is a bad word. It is not a bad word. It helps me, saves me at times. Yes, because when anything and people don't agree, I can draw out the circular and I can draw out the letter from, where's Janice? From Miss Stewart, when they said they don't agree, Mrs. Finance said, sit here, right? So bureaucracy is important, but it's how we apply it, whether we use it in a functional way or a dysfunctional way. I'm wrapping up. For a government to be good, it is essential that their systems and subsystems of governance are efficient, economic, ethical, and equitable. A well-functioning civil service helps to foster good policy making, effective service delivery, and that one, it really sticks with me, effective service delivery, accountability, and responsibility in utilizing public resources, which are the characteristics of good governance. That looked like that gentleman was here sometime in his career and life, because he's talking the language that we are talking about. And really, it's our reality. Are we managing public resources effectively and efficiently? Food for thought. What is the role of this? What is our role in terms of accountability? Where do you fall within the accountability process? Do you see yourself as part of the process, or you are just a mere employee? And then I want to turn a little with you now, just a little exercise. I want you to log in, take out your phones, log in www.menti.com, and the code is there. Yes. Menti, and the code is there. Just a brief. I know my time is almost up. Yes. All right, I want you, let us, this is the first question. The code? It's not going back. Oh, 321 19907. 321 19907. So the question is, how do you keep yourself accountable in the workplace? I want you to just write an answer. How do you, at the end of the day, consider what you're about? You know, what I'm doing, is it the best way? The resources that I am steward over, because all of us, we are stewards over the taxpayers' money, you know, right? That have the resources for which I am, you know, the steward. Am I using them? Okay, so see some of the answers. Benchmarking, yes? How do we benchmark? Well, anybody wants to answer? How do we benchmark? I see calendar, read, policies, benchmarking my deadlines. I seek guidance. My glasses kind of. Reevaluate. Yes, that is important. Integrity. Yes, that is very, very important. Integrity, thank you. Integrity in any system. Do what you say and say what you'll do at the time that you say you'll do it. So, report on time. Check off my list. Yes. All right, can we move on? Personal accountability in the workplace. Let's wrap up. All right, so I just want to go back to this for you to consider this. You would have seen all the comments that have been made and really consider it in terms of your personal role of accountability in the workplace, wherever you are, those in virtual lands. How do we keep ourselves accountable? For me, I try to learn. I ask questions. I seek information. I try to ensure that I'm aware of all the policies, the regulations. I also try to ensure that there's full compliance. I try to ensure that persons are held accountable, the correct persons are held accountable for what they are employed to do. I provide support to the staff, and I hold myself accountable too for the development of the staff. We have to put people first and foremost. I work through them. It's them where I look good. It's true. I don't go to work every day. I don't type up the documents. I'm not in inventory control directly. I have a commitment for the well-being of the staff. That is my responsibility. And I hold myself accountable. If a system breaks down, if HR, there's a problem HR, I hold myself accountable. If there's a system in transport management, I hold myself accountable, and this is why I take it serious. I remember when the ministry split off. No, when Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation was created, I was at Transport and Mining now, because it became Transport and Mining. And one officer came over there and he was so happy to get rid of me. Because guess what? She just too much in procurement, man. She just too much in procurement, because guess what? Them can't run rings around me, and every time you come with anything, everything is rushed. Hurry up and sign up here, and sometimes when you sign, it's after you sign. Me say, Jesus is what me just sign. You know? Because they feel that as PS, you're not to ask any question. But you have to ensure that you satisfy yourself that whatever you're putting your signature to, you're not signing away your freedom. So, all of us who are in leadership, that's my recommendation. Make sure that you are in it, and you don't know everything, but seek the information. Accountability is the glue that ties commitment to results. The public sector forging ahead with determination. Thank you. And I end by saying again, when the challenges get strong, when you don't see a way out, and all that is happening around you, remain focused. Have a vision for yourself, and don't align yourself with the wrong side of people. My mother used to tell me that misery likes company. Align yourself with progressive-looking people. Yes, because you have some people, every time you see them, how are you? Not now go on and appear comment and complain and they pull you over. You say, okay, sorry that nothing is happening and so, but look at it this way and help and guide them, because sometimes because of their attitude, they are not getting ahead and they don't see anything wrong with themselves. It's always somebody doing them something. I have had to step back in my life, in my own career, because when you're young and you think you're moving ahead and you're feisty and nobody can talk to you, you have to know there comes a point now where you have to say, but hey, I did it. I have to say, what you're doing, is it the correct way? Cannot be that I'm going to be disrespectful to my executive director and think, even as a Christian, that I was doing the right thing. Even if I thought he was wrong. But I have to look at me now and make the adjustment. So that is why sometimes I may sound like I'm a very nice, quiet person, because you move from one end of the spectrum to the next, right? And I said I would share a story with you in terms of accountability with this lady here. So I was at Ministry of Education, and we had a problem at case, new PS, and there were very endearing, and she was one of them who stood out in the ministry. Everybody know about Mary Nichols, no nonsense. And you can tell them the story about when the boy tried to hold you up downtown, Mary. And Mary said to them, oh, my bag you want? None of this, no, you not get, not my bag when me having a my bag. Anyway, tough lady. And case was really at the bottom in terms of everything that could be wrong. What's happening there? And I looked around the ministry, and I could only find one lady who would go there and straighten them out. And she said, is when the chairman called her, she knew that I had reassigned her to case, because she never read her email, and I must read on her email. Yes. And let me tell you, she went down there, and she built it's like, when demon take over somebody, and then when the Spirit of God meet them, then just calm. It's like an immediate calm came over case. And she settled them, and she built a system of accountability, and I want to commend her publicly. Yes. It's the first president that went there that when she was leaving, staff and students cried. Accountability. And she has built the foundation, and much of what is happening now is what they are building on her legacy. Thank you very much.
Wow. How do I back announce this? Maybe I should just tell everybody thanks for coming and wrap up and we leave. No, right? Keynote and everything is finished, right, Zachary? My gosh, ladies and gentlemen, the frank, forthright, queen of policy, the mega permanent secretary, the Honorable Audrey V. Sewell. Please put your hands together once more, please. What a presentation. I don't know if I'll even do the greatest of jobs to just kind of go over everything that she said, because I'm so happy that she zoned in on accountability, and really and truly it is the key to good civil service, right? And that's what we're all about. And she did mention a couple of things, and I wanted to zone in on a particular quote that she brought to us. She says, go as far, well, the person she quoted said, go as far as you can go as far as you can see, and when you get there, go further. You can see further. You can see further. That is such a strong quote. Because oftentimes all we're looking at is what we have in front of us, and we're saying, we can't do nothing with this. Right? What are we supposed to do with this? But really and truly, if we take a step of faith, just take one step in front of the other one, in front of the other one. And then when you look and say, but I have some reach already. Somebody can go a little further. And you go further, you can go further, you can go further. That's so amazing. She says, stay accountable. Stay on the side of growth. Results is accountability, not just efforts, right? So effort is nice. It's good that you wanted to do it. Nice that you try. But the results is what is important. You must do your due diligence. Don't bother just, do something and you let it go and say, boy, let me take care of it. Do your due diligence. And you must learn about the persons that you're working with. It's so important to understand personality types, strengths, weaknesses. You can mobilize your team when you get to know the people who you work with. It's what you do that will give you the results. An initiative to move things forward. We have to have a little initiative. Not because that's so you can come see it and you say, boy, but that's what I did all along. No, you can actually change it. You can actually give some additional initiative and create good change. Seek information because we don't know everything no matter how long. You hear how many things PS has done? And she's still saying, Sir Grant, I need your help here because I think you may have more knowledge than I do. That's amazing. Always seek extra information. Remain focused and align yourself with the right energy. Align yourself with winners. And I tell people all the time, when I tell them, Debbie, who you carrying for World Cup? I say anybody who win. Anybody, the winner, that is my team. Because I'm on the winning side. And that is not Waganist. It's not Waganist, It's not Waganist. It's just that you're on the winning side, right? Wow, excellent. Thank you so very much, Honorable Audrey V. Sewell. Again, thank you so much, PS. And if you need any mentee, I'm offering myself up for your mentorship because I feel like I was in a classroom a while ago, right? I felt like I was in a classroom a while ago. I felt draped. I feel uncomfortable, but in a good way. In a very, very good way. I feel uncomfortable to move forward. You must get out of your comfort zone sometimes, and I'm very happy that you shook the room this morning. Thank you so much again, PS. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we're going to pause for some entertainment. I hear that we have some music, a song by a presenter, Mr. Askia Livingstone. Please come forward. Is he here? Yes?
Hello, good morning.
There you are. Come on up.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Is everyone all right? Hungry? No. Nice. Just listening to the forum as the presenter was presenting, I understand a little bit better about the civil servants of Jamaica. And if at times you feel like your work or your efforts being put out is not being appreciated, I appreciate it. So with this song, I hope it is of encouragement to you. And just start it over, please. If you know this song, you can sing it if you want. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we'll win the prize. Time's getting harder, still we're striving for better. And we're not gonna stop till the battle is won and we get justice. And if you lose your stance, anyone will try and push you over and over. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we win the prize. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we'll win the prize. Don't be discouraged by the pitfalls and their worries. Pain endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. But if you lose your soul, there's nothing to gain, and it will be over, over and over. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we'll win the prize. Yeah. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we'll win the prize. Yeah. Oh, hey, hey, lift up your head. Oh, yeah. Now go bow because the color our skin. Now go cheat because we want to win. Now see the crown and still don't know the king. Now see blessing and no blessing. Cause if you lose your stance, anything they try, they will push you over, over and over. Lift up your head and hold it up high, high. Then you will win the prize. Yes. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we'll win the prize. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Livingstone. Please put your hands together for him again, please. Such a good song with a message fitted for this time. Lift up your head and hold it up high, because, you know, Jamaicans, we continue, or civil servants, you continue to win the prize. It's all about forging ahead. And again, we thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon. Well, we're still in this morning, and those joining us online, I see that we have quite a number of persons logged on, watching us on our YouTube platforms. And so we say thank you so much for spending your time with us. You could be there watching other things, but you are here with us, and so we appreciate it. And our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is a gentleman who has a lot on his shoulders, I'm sure, but he's a man fitted for the job. He became the 16th president of the JCSA on the 28th of May, 2011. Now, prior to assuming the role as president, he was a treasurer of the JCSA, a position that he held for 7 years. He is a JC alumni, and people who JC, okay, right? Where he excelled in track and field. Really? So you could have tested bold, Sir Grant, right? Right. Mr. O'Neill Grant is a trained accountant, auditor, and financial analyst with over 27 years of experience both in the private and public sectors. A consummate professional with high ambitions, Mr. Grant has certifications in legal administration, general management, and accounting, and holds an executive MBA from the Mona School of Business. He is affiliated with several institutions where he serves or has served on their boards: Management Institute of National Development, chairman of the First Heritage Cooperative Credit Union Limited, director and former chairman of the FHC Foundation, director of FHC Investments Limited, and also second vice president of the Jamaica Cooperative Credit Union League. I'm not done yet. Director of the National Housing Trust, Director of Fair Trading Commission, Consumer Affairs Commission, member of the Commission for the Review of the NHT, Director of the JCSA Limited and the JCS Housing Company. Whew, it's a whole heap of things. a vice president of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions and a member of the Partnerships for Jamaica. He has made his foray into the international labor scene as a vice president of the Caribbean Public Services Association in 2011-2012, now serving as a member of its executive and as part of Jamaica's delegation to the International Labor Conference in Geneva, Switzerland in 2013, 2014, and 15 as the worker representative. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how he has found time for us today, but we're very, very happy he's here. Mr. O'Neill Grant, president of the Jamaica Civil Service, doing what he does best, serving us here this afternoon. Please make him welcome.
Good morning, my fellow civil servants. It is indeed an honor to present to you this morning at this public forum for Civil Service Week. Let me first acknowledge Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, Honorable Marshall Smith, the doyen of the Permanent Secretaries Group, the Honorable Audrey Sewell, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and the Office of the Prime Minister, Mr. Zachary Harding, the Executive Chairman and co-founder of Delta Capital Partners, and of course, my former boss, Luna Brown. I'm happy to see you ever present in all our functions. My colleagues from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, who I work so closely with, led by, of course, here this morning, Mrs. Lorna Phillips, members of my executive who are in the audience, my dear friends, and I see Anthea there smiling around in the back, who have known me from I was a little toops until where I am now. You know, thank you for coming out to share in this moment, and my friends and colleagues who are online, coming out to witness what I think is a very, very special moment in Civil Service Week. You know, it's not often that we get a chance to see the manifestation of the practical experience of one of us who have served very, very long. And I was thoroughly enthralled by the presentation by PS Audrey Sewell. You know, after that, you know, I'm belly full. You know, I felt empowered my own self to go back and redouble my effort as a career civil servant who now just happens to be the president of the union. But I will not spend too much time on that. We have a keynote speaker here, and that will be our second keynote address for the morning, and I don't want to give you a third, so let me be more efficient in my management of time. But before I can do that, I must also say thanks to the Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark. Some people want to refer to him as Santa Claus, or Santa Clark, because oftentimes when he's around, we get gifts. And he has promised us that in December we should see something under our Christmas tree. I won't say what that is. The role of the Jamaica Civil Service Association has always been and will continue to be a strategic partner of the government of Jamaica in public sector transformation. And as Minister and as Permanent Secretary Sewell would have alluded to, from Administrative Program 1 and 2 at the AGD, Mrs. Brown, we were on the Ministry Paper number 51, which introduced the executive agencies, and by a particular time we would have evolved to the entire public sector being a productivity-based public sector, and so on, using the EA model. But as time changed and as circumstances change, transformation itself is a very dynamic process, and it leads to other, more current approaches to public administration. As a student of the art of war, one recognizes that for the great civilizations that existed, how they became great and maintained their greatness was not through military might, but through the strength of their public bureaucracy. You take all of them. It is the strength of their public bureaucracy that maintained them, even in our modern dispensation. All the superpowers that exist now don't exist just because of their military might, but it's the support that they get from their public administration that keeps them where they are. And it is such that the Jamaican public sector and the Civil Service Association recognize its role as part of the vanguard of public bureaucracy why we take on the role of being the chief advocate and lobbyist for the public sector as we go through the process of transformation. Oftentimes, we get involved in looking at processes and looking at the issues of finances and so on, but oftentimes the people are not prized in that transformation exercise. And I must say, in Jamaican parlance, big up to the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and the Cabinet Office for how they have now put the people behind the transformation, at the forefront of transformation, looking at the work that we do and how we do it and how we can improve processes to serve our public better. P.S. Sewell, and forgive me for making references, because there's a certain alignment in my presentation with what she has said. And there will also be times when I will rely on some of what we'll call her sister, Minister Marsha Smith, would have also indicated in her presentation as well, because it all aligns. P.S. Sewell is the leader here in terms of public administration. Minister Marsha Smith is the leader in terms of public policy, and the union is the leader in terms of putting it all together for the protection of the worker within the public service. So when P.S. Sewell spoke about the issue of productivity and accountability, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. But we have a challenge, and this is part of the process of driving transformation in the public sector. And I oftentimes use the phrase, an analogy, that if you have an acre of land, 2 plots of land, 2 acres, one here, one there, and on this side, you give the person a brand new fork and say, go ahead and till that land. And on the other side, you give the other person a brand new tractor and say, go and till that land. The one with the fork is working much harder than the one with the tractor, but the one with the tractor has more modern equipment with which to do the work faster, more efficiently, get it to the right depth that he doesn't have to go and replow the land. You start to understand the problem that we have had in public administration, that we have never truly have gotten the resources that we need to be as proficient and efficient and prolific in terms of productivity. And we are on a path using technology, using modern means, using the training that we are now bringing to the fore through the Marcus Garvey Scholarship that Minister Dr. Honorable Nigel Clark would have announced 3 years ago, to ensure that we not only invest in systems, but we invest in the people as well. The constant refrain that we have is reform and transform. The Jamaica Civil Service Association is the consummate partner and stakeholder in the transformation exercise. By our natural leaning, we are positioned to be everywhere in public administration because our members are everywhere. And so when the Ministry of Finance is putting out a policy as it relates to the public service staff orders, the union has to be there to ensure that its lens is applied to what is coming out of that policy. When we are looking at the regulations for the public service, the union has to be there to lend its eye to that. When we are talking about the customer service excellence in the public sector, the union was a very early stakeholder in the consultations as to what that ought to be and how the public can be best served, because we have a mantra in the Jamaica Civil Service Association that we are the defender of the delivery of quality public services, and that can only be done through the people that are delivering quality public services. So when we have, through our lobbying and advocacy, the establishment of a new type of leave in the public sector, and for those of us who have not been following, when the JCSA celebrated its 100th year of existence in 2019, we put on a men's forum. And coming out of that men's forum, we started the advocacy for the establishment of parental leave in the public sector. And it is with great pride and happiness, one could even say joy, that come January morning, we are going to see it in full effect in the public sector. Thanks. Thanks for the Ministry of Finance, led here today by Minister Marsha Smith, for again reinforcing where we have come and where we are going. And let me just bring up my presentation so I'm making proper reference to it. Technology seems to be failing me. Okay, good. The JCSA's strategic mission is to be persistent and consistent in the advocacy for the worker, moving from surviving to thriving. We have been surviving, and part of the challenge that we have had as a public service, and I'd like to also remind us that there are two arms of the state. There's a military arm and there's a civilian arm. And we have been at war, and forgive me for constantly making, don't forgive me, please understand my constant reference to war. Because we have been at war for several decades now. And the war that we are fighting is not one that we started. It's something that has come to our shores. We're talking about what is happening in the global political economy. And being a small island developing state, we are not protected or insulated from the ravages that is happening outside of our control. And as vanguards of the state, while the military is doing its part, we, the civil servants, have been on the front lines fighting the battle by creating policies to ensure the safety and security of our country, island, home, Jamaica. So, we have been advocating persistently and consistently to move us from surviving to thriving. And this thriving is now manifesting itself. And with all change, there will be some aches and pains, and we will groan and we will complain. And the Ministry of Finance team knows how bitterly I complain at times. But it is in the interest of ensuring that we pay attention to our people. And through this advocacy, through all the transformation exercise, particularly of late, when we would have made some tough decisions in relation to our public sector in the past. I remember in the early 1990s, we cut the public sector as a result of economic challenges that we were facing. And we had to turn around and re-employ everybody and expanded the service because we did not do it properly. We have learned from that mistake, and we have decided that it is no longer a numbers game. The game that we are in now is to ensure that we continue to enrich the public sector to deliver quality public services, and that is what the transformation exercise has been about. So, in looking at the mission of the Jamaica Civil Service Association and moving from surviving to thriving, there are some things that we are celebrating, some things that are causing us concern. And we talk about pay, compensation review. What does it mean for us as public officers, and what will it mean in the future? I remember a few years ago, the Honorable Ambassador Douglas Saunders called me and asked, O'Neill, we are going to be doing something for the permanent secretaries because their salaries are so low. And what was happening at the time was that the permanent secretaries were getting the same pay as the chief technical directors in the ministry, who were reporting to them. So even though PSCL was saying that as the accounting officer, she's going to have to take the licks, and we saw the presentation in Parliament, for the persons who should be taking responsibility for their own decisions. And PSCL stood there in Parliament and stood up as a strong permanent secretary and said, it has to change. And part of that is how we reward and compensate our leadership in the public sector. And when it was said, do you have any challenge with us paying our permanent secretaries higher? I said, no, and that should have happened a long time ago, because this is what we need to do. And this is a precursor to us now looking at compensation as we see it today. It's not where it should be, not where it ought to be, but we recognize where we are and where we are coming from, that as a country we are not out of the woods as yet. The minister has outlined his economic program. We're in full sync with the program to move it to where we need to go to reduce the load of debt, to bring us down to 60% of GDP where the debt is concerned, to ensure that we can now move more of those resources into compensation. That is the long-term vision. So as PS's presentation said, we have gone as far as we could see. Now we are able to see a little bit more, and we are quite hopeful for what the future brings. So we are looking at the other elements of compensation, not just pay. We are looking at the conditions of service, and the public service regulations is being transformed to align with a modern public sector. The Public Service Regulations 1961, Constitution of Jamaica Order in Council, is antiquated. It doesn't speak to the reality of the worker today. When you have situations where, and I don't want to be controversial, where you have situations where persons are off the job for a year without pay, not interdicted, but just off the job. That is not in keeping with a modern public service that values its people, and it's something that we need to change. There are some hygiene factors, and some of us who studied management theory will recognize that after a while, it's no longer about pay. We are at that level now because our pay was small, but after we move from this about pay, it is now about the other aspects of the hygiene factors. How can the public service, through the public sector learning framework, now equip us to move from the entry point where we are to where we need to be through the competency pathways that have been established, that by the leadership and the direction of the Cabinet Secretary in concert with the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service is now developing a framework where public officers can see themselves from their point of entry to where they will ultimately be, moving from an accounting clerk to permanent secretary. We have to look at our places. COVID-19 has taught us a very important lesson in how we work and where we work. And as a modern public sector, there are some things that we need to critically look at to determine whether or not we are using the most efficient places to engage with our workers. Are we using technology enough to ensure that we give our workers the tools not to use a fork to plow the land, but to give them a brand new tractor to efficiently execute their duties to the public? And so we have to look at our approach to using the brick and mortar to carry out our work as public officers. Whilst we are a highly process-driven, because of it's the nature of a bureaucracy. A bureaucracy by its very nature must be driven by processes. And because we are a public bureaucracy, it means that we are highly regulated. And everything that we do is guided by a policy somewhere or some legislation somewhere. It's not something that we can just go and just do something, because every action has a consequence. So we also recognize as well that we need to be entrepreneurial, not entrepreneurial, entrepreneurial. We need to be thinking of the organization, inside the organization that we are, and to be developing and proposing how it is that we can make our systems and processes more efficient. I recall back in the days when I was part of the business process committee that was looking at business processes within the public sector and how we were examining processes, and we recognized there was a simple truth. That part of the challenge that our public is seeing is that we have so many controls. As a trained accountant, we recognize that if you have too many controls in an environment and you allow those controls to proliferate, you're actually weakening the very system that you're trying to strengthen. And so you try to limit the amount of controls, but to ensure that the ones that you have remain strong to serve the purpose of the public institution, which always comes back to ensuring that the resources of the country by virtue of the tax dollars are properly spent and accounted for. And we as civil servants must make sure that we play our part in this accountability framework that has been established. Matters of governance and leadership are extremely important to us. And as a union, we try to embody that in all our interfaces with government. We hold government accountable as strategic partner and key stakeholder. We are celebrating Civil Service Week. And from time to time, we reflect on the various, I don't want to call them just like the motto or the song for schools, the emblems and the symbols that represent us as citizens, because we do see ourselves as first citizens. And it's not that it's a boast or a brag, but we are giving of self every day that we go to work. We are giving of self to come out and serve our public. And we have been doing so for a long time. And sometimes at sacrifice to our personal sacrifices to ourselves and to our families as well. I was at church service on Sunday, and Reverend Pusey, who is the husband of Justice Pusey, said that sometimes he thought he was a single father because of the hours that she spent trying to ensure that justice and the legal profession in the public sector was moving forward in a manner that speaks to its efficiency. So, as I said, I was not going to be giving another keynote address. We received one. We are going to receive another. My enduring charge to public officers is not to forget who we are. You may have joined the service for a particular purpose. Some people joined it for the mere fact that they just couldn't get a job anywhere else. But now that you have come here, are you going to leave the same way that you came? And I'm challenging all of us. You know, Oliver and I worked at the Administrator General's Department. You know, and we served in the union as well. You became a rep, Oliver, when I became president, I think. Yeah. Right. And one of the things that we would have experienced, Mrs. Brown, is moving the agency from a department under the Central Civil Service to an executive agency, and all that investment and what it meant to carry out our functions properly. And it was a time of learning and a time of growth. And nobody who was there at that time would have left the Administrator General's Department the same way that they entered. We were not accustomed to being output-driven. We were always process-driven. And so when we start to have performance targets and we have to meet our targets, and if you don't reach the 75%, Mrs. Brown is going to call you into her office and give you a talking to about performance and the need to meet the targets. And sometimes at the time, I think P.S. Palmer was the permanent secretary at the time. When she would come down and the executives met and Mrs. Brown come out of that meeting and she was not looking too pleased because there was something somewhere, as P.S. Sewell said, that was causing the performance of the entity to look bad. And as the head, she had to bear that responsibility. And so we had to take on the responsibility of making sure that Mrs. Brown looked good. And we would have learned valuable lessons in being a part of that change so that we too can now continue to contribute to the change. And I'm challenging all my fellow public officers as we forge ahead with determination that we look at it as an adventure going into the great unknown that is the future. It is how we act in the present, or positioning in the present, that is going to determine what our public sector will look like in the future. We continue to celebrate what it means to be a civil service, and I'm hoping, and I've started a conversation with the Ministry of Finance, that in the not too distant future, it is not going to be a celebration of just Civil Service Week, but a celebration of Public Services Week. That is what I am pushing for. We've started the conversation. We need to bring it to its natural conclusion, where it's not just the civil service that is celebrated, but the entire public sector, because we all have a role to play in the national development and the running of an efficient bureaucracy. I want to close on that note and to continue to wish us a very happy Civil Service Week as we continue the celebrations for the rest of this week. Thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together once more for Mr. O'Neill, Grand President of the Jamaica Civil Service. Thank you so much, sir, for your presentation. We have just learned a lot. I love what Mr. Grant said about investing in our people. And also, we've asked so much of our civil servants. We've asked them to conform, but it also should come hand in hand with reform, right? That's so it's supposed to go, right? Exactly. And understanding what it takes really to offer good civil service. We must continue to advocate for our workers and ask for the compensations necessary in all forms, right? Because you know the saying that says, to whom much is given, much is required, but to whom much is required, much must be given. Because we do require a lot, right? We require a lot of our people, and so must give them so that they can continue to, of course, offer us with good, effective service. So, we are almost there. The keynote presentation is almost ready, and our keynote presenter has been mic'd, but we do have some goodies, and I'm sorry for the persons online. I'm not sure if the team can facilitate any questions that will be answered online. If you've answered anything at all, I'm leaving it in the team's hands to make sure that you get your prizes. But for the persons here, I want to see how much you've been listening and how much you've been paying attention. All right, so it's a very, very easy one for those of us who know the answer. Please give somebody else a chance, please. So I want to know, when was Civil Service Week established? Anybody can tell me? You cannot have worked. His joke, fine. First person to answer, yes, go ahead. 1992. They're correct. Congratulations. Yes, don't bad mind. We have to clap her, please. Thank you. And how many years have we been doing the public forum? How many years have we been doing the public forum? If you don't raise your hand, I can't see you. Hands? 2 years. Congratulations. Yes, only over this side being, answering and so. Okay. No. Our state minister mentioned earlier on about the compensation package, and she did mention the number of employees who stand to benefit. Anybody remember the number? Yes, purple girl. 60,000. We have an answer over this side. Congratulations. And from our PS's presentation, she mentioned the key to good public service. What is that? Anybody can tell me? Accountability. There we go. Congratulations. Oh, all bright sparks we have in the building, man. Hey, students. Congratulations, guys. Thank you so much for participating. And now we are heading into the keynote presentation, because if time allows, we can definitely do a panel discussion. So, I mentioned earlier on when I said that we have a keynote presenter with a long list of accolades. Trust me, the list is long, but I'm going to get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Zachary Harding. He's the executive chairman and co-founder of Delta Capital Partners. He's a member of the Forbes Business Council and was also named Stockbroker CEO of the Year in Jamaica in 2021 by Global Banking and Finance Awards. Now, over the years, Harding has had a stellar track record in senior management positions, including Chief Executive Officer, Director Marketing and Strategy and Brand Manager, as well as other leadership roles at companies including Appliance Traders Limited, with Cinco, Red Stripe, and Grace Kennedy Remittance Services Limited. He was also the first CEO of the Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator, an initiative started by Sir Richard Branson and 3 prime ministers from the Caribbean. In 2012, Harding was named one of the top 50 under 50 business leaders shaping Jamaica's future by the PSOJ and the Gleaner Company Limited. Harding has invested heavily in the creative industry, being one of the executive producers alongside Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith in the feature film Sprinter, which featured Usain Bolt. He also executive produced One People, the official documentary of Jamaica's 50th anniversary of independence. In 2021, he was invited to be featured speaker at TEDx Aston University, where he presented his careful decision-making model, a formula for success. And if you go on YouTube after this show is finished and you type in Zachary Harding TEDx, you will see it pop up. Trust me, you're going to love it. Now, Harding has been dubbed a rainmaker and marketing guru based on several groundbreaking campaigns and brand turnarounds. He's known for the marketing of brands such as Ocean Spray, Water, Bigger, Smirnoff Ice, ATL, and many others. His innovative mind and strategic acumen led him to be appointed in 2007 as special advisor to the Ministry of Tourism, or the Minister rather, of Tourism, and Deputy Director at the Jamaica Tourist Board, helping to market brand Jamaica. He is currently appointed by the Minister of Finance to serve on the board of Caribbean Airlines, and he's appointed by the Prime Minister to serve on the board of Jampro, where he chairs the Projects and Marketing Subcommittee, as well as Linkages Committee. How do you sleep? So when do you get time to sleep, Zachary? Wow. Now, previously, he has served on several other boards, including Port Authority of Jamaica, the Jamaica Manufacturers Association, Urban Development Corporation, Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, and the Sports and Entertainment Network under the Ministry of Tourism. He was one of Sean Paul's first managers. He also co-founded the Too Hard Records with his brother Jeremy, known for producing Beanie Man, Sim Simma, Elephant Man, Log On, Sean Paul's Baby Girl, Mr. Vegas, Nike Air, and many others. In his 20s, Harding was one of the founders of Syndicate Disco, and now in his 40s, although highly regarded as one of Jamaica's most noteworthy corporate executives, has recently started DJing again. And if you go onto his Instagram page, sometimes you'll see him string up the sound, right? And he's around his turntables. He has been dubbed the Dance Hall CEO. Zachary has been married for 27 years. He has 2 beautiful daughters. He attended Campion College, where he represented his school in football, cricket, and also he captained the under-16 cricket team. Ladies and gentlemen, a man for the decades, a man who's represented this country well, both locally and internationally. It gives me great pleasure at this time to welcome, with our keynote address this afternoon, Zachary Harding.
Yeah! Well, this is being the man representing for Zachary Harding. Now, this rhythm was produced by Jeremy Harding. Some boy don't understand what this is. This is music. And if you don't understand, feel it. Zachary.
We're going to have some fun, right? Debbie, sing out.
Oh, na, 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 na. Oh, na, 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 na. Oh, na, 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 na. Oh, na, 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 na. Oh, na, 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 na.
Minister, where are you? Good afternoon. We have to have fun, right? I couldn't really make Audrey come and get a bigger forward than me, you know. So I had to dig deep in the record box a while ago. I went through a couple of Sizzler and a couple of Lucian to draw for the Beanie Man. Anyway, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for your patience. We're going to just have a little bit of fun and enjoyment today, right? It's a wonderful day. It's a pleasure for me to be here in the presence of the Minister and O'Neill, the whole team that is here. I'm very much focused on how we can make Jamaica be a better place, right? And I know that that is what you as civil servants wake up to do every day. You have options. You had options. There's tons of things that you could have done, you could have chosen your life to do. But you've decided to serve your country. And that in and of itself deserves a round of applause. In life, we have to work with what we have and respect what we don't have. There's a lot of pressure put on us by society in terms of, what we should do and what is seen as acceptable and what is seen as not acceptable. But sometimes you have to make your own decisions. I was reminded this morning that, I went to law school, and I was reminded this morning that I was at law school at the same time as minister. But we have to respect what we have and respect what we don't have. And what I didn't have was the interest in staying in law school. So I quit. Luckily, Minister didn't quit. So she went through and she's become a lawyer, now a Minister of State, and she's serving her country, a Member of Parliament, and a whole bunch of other things. So a round of applause for that. And O'Neill's daughter she just started Norman Manley, correct? And she made a decision that she might want to do something else. And if that's her decision, as a father who didn't benefit from paternity leave, he will now just have to respect his adult daughter's decision. It was difficult for me, and sometimes it's even hard for me to tell this story. It was difficult for me because my father is a lawyer. And not just a lawyer, he was Attorney General. He was a former President of the Senate. He was a former Minister of Justice, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Queen's Counsel, now King's Counsel. So for me, I wanted to go to law school because I wanted to be like my dad. I thought my dad was pretty cool, right? But when I got there, I just realized that it wasn't for me. Because one of the things that you need to enjoy or to be able to do in order to be a lawyer is read. And I just don't like reading, right? I just never liked reading. So I had to go and explain to mom and dad to say, boy, this just isn't for me. I need to just take a different path. I love music. My brother was at McGill at the time doing chemical engineering. 3 years into it, he decided it wasn't for him. And so he left. And my dad had gone to McGill. And Jeremy went to music school and decided to music production. And so coming out of that now, we formed a record label. And if it wasn't for him, then we wouldn't have Beanie Man, Sim Simmer. We wouldn't have had Sean Paul's Baby Girl, Elephant Man, Log On, Vegas, Nike, and a whole bunch of other things. So people have to choose different paths in life, right? And we have to celebrate people that choose a path that works for them. So I celebrate you for choosing this path that has worked for you today. Not everybody will be able to be a Usain Bolt or a Bob Marley. But you can still enjoy running and you can still enjoy music. But know what your path is. Choose a path. P.S. Sewell has chosen her path and stuck to her path over the decades and has done an exemplary job. And I want a round of applause for P.S. We see an era globally where there is a lack of, and at the same time a need for, strong and decisive leadership. In my opinion, and I don't care how anybody wants to take this, it's not a political statement, right? I believe in the Prime Minister that we have here now, and I believe that we have a strong, yes, round of applause. I believe that we have a strong Prime Minister who is giving it 150%, and who believes in Jamaica. He's not the best at everything, but that's okay, because great leaders are not the best at everything. What they do is they find people who are best at different things, and they get them all on the same team. So he has found different players and actors and people who are good at different things and brought them together. And we now have a system that is working, and we know in a path where we've come out of a pandemic. We have not seen the negative growth that other countries have seen, and many of our major economic factors and indicators are up. So we have to be proud of that. It's important that we build relationships as we go along. And many of the things that were said earlier on, I'm like, did these people see my presentation and borrow some slides out of it? But they were just so consistent. It's about the company that you keep. Sit with winners and the conversation is different, right? Build a circle of friends, colleagues who like to talk about investments, business ideas, personal growth, instead of gossiping about other people, right? So you have, yeah man, round of applause for that. Because you have some people that just show up at work, just determined to complain about everything. It doesn't matter what. Their purpose is to just complain. Right? And we have some people that just get up and their purpose is to oppose. Some of them call themselves opposition. And some of them just are people that just like to oppose. Right? But we have to move past that mindset. Obviously, we have to have checks and balances. Right? But it is our mindset that will determine our future. It is our mindset that will determine how successful we are. And if all we do is we get up and we complain about things, then you're going to live in a country that you're not happy to be in. And you're going to live a miserable life. And then one day, as my father would say, you will shuffle off your mortal coil. And then what would it have all been worth? Nothing. Okay? So, building relationships. I don't know if everybody really understands the significance. I mean, I guess you guys do, but the significance of the signing of these agreements that have taken place recently. It is an indication of a maturity in our country where the Ministry of Finance has been able to sit with the union, sit with you guys, pencil out something that is working, that is going to benefit people, especially those in the civil service who have been disenfranchised for such a long time. It's a big deal. And that deserves a round of applause. Right? It is an acknowledgement also of the value of the civil service. Because, as was said earlier on, is you guys running the country. Ministers will come and go. Right? But P.S. Sewells will be there for a long time. And she's seen many a minister come and go, many a scandal, many a public outcry, many a all sorts of stuff. But she has been steadfast and rock solid and will continue, just as many of you will. Right? So building relationships is key because those things will endure over time. It's also important that we follow through. To be successful at anything, you don't have to be different. And as Jamaicans, we always like to be different. Every Jamaican is a star. Every Jamaican is the baddest DJ, the wickedest footballer, the best singer, the most fashionable, right? The best, well-dressed in church, whatever your thing is. But everybody has to stand out and be different. But you don't always. What you have to do to be successful is what most people aren't, and that is consistent. Be consistent, right? Show that integrity. Your word is your bond. I used to work at Grace Kennedy, and that was the mantra. Your word is your bond. And we have to follow through. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Don't just run off your mouth and claim you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then you just sit down there idle and don't deliver. You have to deliver. You have to follow through. So, I have drafted what I believe is a formula for success, which I am sharing with you today. And that is, success is building the right relationships, misspelling, and making the right decisions, and then following through. Building the right relationships, making the right decisions, and then following through. And we're going to talk about decision making today. Because with the help of Janelle Brown, who was my chief of staff in my office at Delta, we came up with this formula for decision making, for successful decision making. This is what I presented on when I presented at TEDx. And I call it the careful decision making model. And that is decisions made with care, C-A-R-E, that lead to a more fulfilling outcome. And if anybody wants to take out your phones, take pictures, write it, those who are more comfortable with pencil and paper, Marsha, right? Then do that. Because we're going to take you through this. So, the first component of any decision, and we're talking today about making good decisions that are going to make us more successful as a country, is to recognize when we're at a crossroads. A lot of times we don't even realize that there's a decision to be made, and that you're at a decision-making point, and that you have a choice. Right? I had a choice whether or not I wanted to continue law school. I was at a crossroads, and I had to make a decision. So we have to acknowledge we do have choices. We can decide and choose how we want to interact with people, what decisions we want to make. Sometimes the decision may actually be to do nothing. Because sometimes you feel compelled to act because there's pressure. The voters are pressuring you. Your colleagues are pressuring you. Minister is pressuring you. Sometimes the decision is no, I'm just going to hold steady and just do nothing. Because that might be the right decision at the time. We then now have to make sure that our decisions are made with authenticity. Why did I put these pictures up? I put this picture up because authenticity will mean different things to different people. In the dance hall, this is authenticity. Right? This is a freedom of expression. My friend, a big dancer, Global Bob, says he dances to express, not to impress. Right? I love that quote. I dance to express, not to impress. But authenticity may look like this somewhere else. Nelson Mandela, spending nearly 3 decades locked up in prison for a principle that he stood for. So it may look different to different people at different times, but authenticity is really just doing what you believe is the right thing to be done and not just bowing to pressure from other people. Critical step in the decision-making process. Next, we look at risk. Risk came up earlier on, right? And especially in government, especially in public service, etc., even in private sector. When we talk about risk, the thought process is what could go wrong, right? So we do a risk mitigation strategy and plan. We list out all the potential risks, rank the likelihood and probability of those risks, list the mitigant that may help to stop that risk from happening, or if it happens, what do we do if it happens? But I would suggest to you today that as Jamaicans, we need to remix risk, right? Let's not just look at risk as what could go wrong, but instead what could go right. Because what exactly is risk? Risk is simply a mathematical probability. It's the likelihood of an outcome. You go to a casino, you're gambling, you're throwing your dice, you're playing Ludo, whatever. You're taking a risk each time. You're just risking. What's the likelihood of me throwing 6 on the dice? It doesn't necessarily have to be something bad. When Usain Bolt or any of our sports stars line up on the track at the starting line, he's not thinking about risk. Right? I was fortunate enough to be there in 2008 in Beijing in the Bird's Nest Stadium when Usain Bolt and all of the Team Jamaica lit up the stadium. Right? I got sent a picture by my friend Justine Hensel a couple months after, and there's a photograph of Usain running and his shoelace is untied. Right? Now imagine if he's at the starting line looking down and saying, boy, shoelace untied. What does this mean? I wonder if I'm going to trip and fall. Boy, look at the line up beside me, man. Man, I look fit and fast. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I train enough. I don't know if the chicken nuggets going to hold me back. Right? But that is not how stars and successful people think. They're not thinking of what could go wrong. They're thinking about what could go right. And he's just focused on one thing. At the time, I think he was like 19 years old. He's like, I'm going to be a legend. I'm going to get to that finish line before everybody else here beside me. That's it. Nothing else. Shoelace, nuggets, no matter. Nobody can stop it. And the rest is history. So remix the risk and instead look at what the positive outcome could be and focus on that. And do not be afraid of what could go wrong. So, we've gone through C, crossroads, A, authenticity, R, risk. The final in the careful decision-making model is E for emotion. Now, I put this up here. It's irrelevant. You don't need to say all the words on it. But the reason why I put it up there is to show you the complexity of emotions. It's not always that simple. And it's difficult sometimes to even decipher between certain emotions. Okay? So now imagine you are going through that spectrum of emotions, and so are other people, and you're trying to interact with each other. It is complex. So that leads us now to emotional intelligence. This needs to be a subject in our schools. Right? And I have a lot of fun always mentioning this, but I don't really know that it's necessary anymore for us to learn geography in school. We have GPS, we have Google Maps. I know some teachers in here and some geography teachers online going, why this man consistently licking out against geography? Right? I'm not sure that it's necessary or important for me to know what a cumulonimbus cloud is. I don't know. You want to know what a radar cloud? Google. No more Roy Forrester, but Google. Right? But what is important, in my view, much more important than, the name of a cloud, is your ability to navigate in this world utilizing emotional intelligence. Thank you. So, I'm going to ask a quick question. I just want you to just shout out some answers, right? Because I'm a bit of a mind reader, and very often I'll get this right. So I'm just going to ask a question very quickly. Question is, what do we all want to be in life? What do we all want to be? Rich, successful, happy, right? Healthy, wealthy, careful. So the first word that came out Did I not tell you that I was a mind reader? The first answer was successful. Because that's essentially it. We all want to be successful in life. We want to be successful civil servants, successful lawyers, members of parliament, union heads, successful, AV technicians, successful owners of hotels, whatever it is, successful investors, musicians, but we want to be successful. We want to be a successful son or daughter or parent. That's what we're chasing. What you do is relatively irrelevant. It's about who you are and how you go about doing it. Right? So we want to be successful in life. So, in order to be successful, we have to try and understand what the factors are that help to determine success, and the likelihood or probability of success. Some university professors, decades ago, mid-1900s, decided that they wanted to do some research to understand this a little bit better. Because back in the days, your likelihood for success was determined by your IQ, how smart you were, right? So, Marsha not so smart in school, primary school, boy, she's not so likely to be successful, but Debbie no, bright spark, straight A's, always on time, writing neat, homework well presented, pay attention in class, discipline. She's more likely to be successful. You look in the yearbook, most likely to be successful, Debbie, right? But then they started to look at this and said, but there wasn't always this direct correlation. So they wanted to do some further research to understand it. So they played this game, and the game was called a cookie game. And they got a room full of students together, ages 5 to 20 years old. And the first thing that they did is they measured their IQ. Wrote down the scores for everybody's IQ. They then introduced the rules of the game, and there are just basically 2 rules. Rule number 1 was wait an hour, and every hour on the hour you'll get a cookie. So if you wait 2 hours, you get 2, 3 hours, you get 3, etc. The second rule is anytime you want, you can eat the cookie and you leave the room. That's it. There was no guidance in terms of a right way to do it or a wrong way to do it or whatever. So we're there. Yeah, I'm a hungry belly already, my wife will tell you, right? And 1 hour passes, and I'm like, you know what? Not really into the long waiting thing, because I'm hungry now. So my cookie came, I ate it, I left the room. But Sam is there. And big up to Sam, who is here with me. That's my PA from my office. And Sam decides, you know something? If I wait 2 hours or 3 hours, I get 3 cookies. That's better off than getting 1 cookie, right? So she waits. And she waits it out and she gets the 3 cookies. And she continues and continues. And after about 6 hours, she's genuinely hungry and eats the cookies and leaves the room. So they follow up much later in life, 20 years later, with the same group, and they ask them a bunch of questions because they're trying to now determine how successful they were. And they went around the room and they asked a bunch of people. They asked questions, how much money are you making in life? Are you happy? What's your relationship status like? Did you graduate from school? Do you have any dependencies on any drugs? Just generally speaking, how successful have you been? And they found 2 things that were miraculous at the time. The first was there was no correlation whatsoever with those who had high IQs and who became successful in life. None. But there was a direct correlation between those that were successful and those that waited and had the most amount of cookies. How does this make sense? How could building up a number of cookies at 5 years old, for example, determine your likelihood for success? And the reason that they came up with was something which we refer to as the ability to defer gratification. Delay or defer gratification. Now, why does that make sense? It is simply because the ability to delay or defer gratification is an indication of your ability to manage your emotions. Many of us struggle to manage our emotions. And God help the children of today with instant gratification based on social media. Right? There's no time span to say patience. We saw that the slide that was up earlier about change. Right? Instant versus long-term growth. Right? The ability to wait, to be patient, to grow naturally, organically, over time, instead of wanting everything now. This, I'm going to talk close into the mic so people. This is a problem we have in our society, where people believe that we must achieve and get everything now. Right? There's a thing called lottery scamming, which is an instant gratification scheme where you can get rich now. And people are therefore, they don't have the patience or the wherewithal to work, to put in the hours and the years and make the sacrifices as you guys have to be able to be successful in life. Right? So, we're going to look at what is emotional intelligence. Right? We're covering that now. And we also want to understand emotions. So I'm going to take you through now. It's going to be a little bit of a bio class, right? But just stay with me. When we talk about emotional intelligence, there are 3 parts of the brain that play a role. And I'm going to try to draw P.S. Sewell's head. I'm not so good on the drawing and stuff. And no, you know what? This look a little bit more like Debbie, got a short hairstyle. So See if I can get the nose right, a little cute nose. How that look? Look a little bit manly, but I didn't capture it right, but gave a little, yeah. No, I have to work on my drawing skills. Drawing was never bad. Looking more like me? All right, fine. Let's work with that then. So let's work. Yeah, don't give up my danger. All right, so let's work with this. So this is my head, right? When it comes to emotional intelligence, 3 parts of the brain that play a critical role. First is the prefrontal cortex. We refer to this as the processor. Okay? The processor has one role and function, and that is simply to compute. It has no ability to store information. Next, we have something in the middle of the brain called the amygdala. It's a funny word, and it's just really the hard drive of the brain. And it kind of has the opposite or complementary function, whereby it has no ability to process. All it does is it stores files. That's it. And then we have the brain stems that run up and down the body, and these are basically the transmitters. And this transmits information, which results in some sort of action or reaction each time a decision needs to be made. So let's look at this now. Processor has a decision to be made. It checks in with the hard drive to see what files are there. The hard drive says, here are the files that we know of that relate to the question being asked or the decision need to be made. Sends a message back with the files. The processor makes a decision. The decision is communicated to the brain stems, and this transmits to the body, resulting in some sort of action or reaction. Right? Right. So let's look at this now in a fictional example. Prehistoric times, so there's no files. Life just began all of a sudden. There's no history, there's no memory, there's no nothing. Caveman walking through the jungle with his family. Life is good, everybody's happy. Things are going on quite well. They hear a little rustling in the bush. They've never heard a rustling in the bush before. They have no frame of reference to know what that means. So what do? Just keep walking. Right? As they walk past the bush, what do you think comes out of the bush? Saber-toothed tiger. Right? Eats one of the children. Dead. They're devastated. Everybody runs off. Yeah, man, we're going to get more graphic too. Right? Everybody runs off. They're distressed. They can't believe it. There's, how the husband and wife arguing. Why we went that way? I told you not to drive that way or not to walk that way. I said, no, but this is the way we always walk. Back and forth, back and forth. Everybody's blaming everybody else. Right? After 9 days, they get hungry. They have to get back out on the road again, get some food to eat. So they touch the road again. Walking by, a little bit sad, but life goes on. They are not a rustling in the bush. They have a frame of reference now, right? So a decision needs to be made. Processor checks in with the hard drive. Hard drive fires up because there's a memory there, there's a file there, releases a chemical called cortisol, which is a stress hormone, right? Sometimes you hear about it on TV, cortisol causing belly fat, stress hormone, right? Same thing. And the purpose of cortisol is to restrict your ability to think, right? Because you don't always have time to be making long-winded decisions and discussions. Sometimes you have to act quickly, right? So the decision is, the files are sent to the processor with some cortisol to say, listen, don't overanalyze this. You need to get the hell out of there now. That's transmitted to the brain stems, and they run off. Shelley and Fraser Price, Usain Bolt, Elaine, like lightning, Asafa, out of there. What do you think comes out of the bush? A little bunny rabbit. So what does that tell us? There was never any danger. The danger and the risk was perceived. There was a belief that something bad was going to happen because that was what the files were stored in our brain. So for some of the teachers that are in here also, think about this when we talk about children and trauma. You're trying to interact with a child. You're trying to teach a young teenager, for example, certain things. And you know, why is this person acting this way? Sometimes they don't even know because they might have been abused as a child. Your files and your memory impact your decision-making capabilities. So, the human brain can process only about 4 main thoughts at a time. Okay? So right now, you might be wondering, what is Zachary really talking about? I didn't come to biology class. You might be saying, boy, I can't wait for a little coffee break, you know. Remember I told you I'm a mind reader, right? Some of you, and I know who you are saying, boy, I'm just tired. Can't wait to just get to bed tonight. And some of you really want to go to the bathroom. Right? And that's what's on your mind. Yeah, man, I can see the heads nodding. Remember, I'm a mind reader. So I'm going to play a couple of videos. I'm going to run through these fairly quickly. But the exercise is, I want you to try to not think about what you're seeing, but instead just check in with how you feel and see what emotions come up or how you react when you see certain videos.
Don't run into our car!
Tell me what you felt. Just in a quick 5 seconds. What you felt? Shock? Right, some anticipation. Frightened, they weren't too sure what exactly was going to happen. And some of you, especially the church-going folks, might have had a thought that something like this went through your mind, right? What the? Yeah, what the Jesus? Right, so I just released a little bit of cortisol in the body a while ago, by the way, right? Okay, so let's go again. Repeat that. Was that really necessary? Right? It's exactly the thought. Really? Zachary, really? Was that really necessary? So I've now released a little bit more cortisol in your body, right? You're a little bit more heightened now. You're a little bit bored earlier on. Right? PSOL was kind of boring, right? I'm just kidding, just kidding. So, right now, you're really a little bit more aware of what is happening. So we're going to go one more time, and I apologize in advance, but the exercise is, and this is something that it's going to impact you when you leave here. The exercise is check in with how you feel, not so much how you think about what you're seeing. Very graphic, and I do apologize, but the relevance of it is that we have a reaction to things, and it's based on our files, right? So, again, some of you might have been thinking, what the Jesus? Right? The human brain has a very difficult time differentiating between fact and fiction. Okay? We're all on the 17th floor of Pegasus. Watching a presentation, it's on the screen. It's obviously a movie from some movie. It's obviously graphics. But yet we have the same reaction as though it is real. So if you know that you're at Pegasus, you're not at risk, there's no sniper on the roof going after you, but you're watching something, you have that reaction and it's not even real, imagine how people react when something is real or they've really experienced some sort of trauma before. Okay, so You're now down to one bit of information to be able to process and think, because I've now fired cortisol through your body 3 times. Right? So you're a little bit stressed out. Right? You can thank me later. So normally, as a child, let's say you lose your temper in an argument or something like that, an adult would look at you and say, Marshall, calm down. Take a deep breath and count to? Right. The truth is, they lied. Because how long does it take for cortisol to subside? It's not 10. It's really 17 minutes. So for the next 17 minutes, you have this stress hormone that I have deliberately released in your body. Right? But it's going to stay there for a while. So 17 minutes to subside. But the question is, how long does it take to leave your body completely? Four hours. So for the next 4 hours, whether you like it or not, you're going to be a little bit stressed because of what you just saw. You can't help it. The chemical is already released in your body. Right? So quick refresher. Decision needs to be made, or you're confronted with some situation. The processor checks in with the hard drive. The hard drive looks to see what files are there that can help to inform. Depending on the severity, it releases a chemical which inhibits or restricts your ability to make decisions, because sometimes you have to make a fight or flight decision, and in some cases freeze. That gets transmitted and you have some sort of action or reaction. This is happening all day long. Now, early on we spoke about, people that like to complain or gossip or whatever the case is. There's a word for that. And it's a made-up word. You're not going to find it in any book. Actually, my friend Daniel reminded me, other than the book that I wrote, which it has it in there. And the word is called awfulization. Yeah, awfulization. You're repeating the same thing over and over and awfulizing about it. You're recreating the awful situation. Right? So, you get into the office, taxi man bad drive you, vex. Right? Instead of getting into the office and just being like, wow, you know something? So glad that I made it into office today. My colleagues are here. Look at the smiley faces. I love them all. It's so good to be here. That's not what you do. You get into office. Yo, the government really doing about these people on the road, man. People can't drive. The man nearly right me off the road. And then Marsh is there. Yes, it's true. Same thing happened to me yesterday. And you go back and forth, and you awfulize about it, right? Now you think that somehow you're getting some sort of comfort because the misery is seeking comfort with other people. But in fact, you're awfulizing, you're triggering your amygdala, you're releasing cortisol, you're putting yourself in a state of extreme stress for 17 minutes, and in fact prolonging the process by 4 hours. And you keep repeating it over and over. So sometimes you wonder how some people are so miserable all the time. It's because of this. Because all they're doing is just repeating the same negatives over and over. And sometimes you live in a community or in a society where you are surrounded by negativity all the time. And we judge people. Oh, this man at the stoplight won't leave my window alone, man. Every minute him you're just annoying me, wetting up my glass and stuff. You don't know what he's going through. And you're judging him, but you're judging him from your perspective. It is a mistake. And we need to be aware of it. Now, I have 2 videos here. If the team will allow me to play them, we can. They're from YouTube. I know we have some broadcast commission restrictions, but it's on YouTube, so I think it's okay.
Dog, you look away, you alright?
Hold on a second. We'll go back a little bit, right? So, the purpose of this clip, this major hype, is to understand cultural differences. Okay? And I apologize, there may be some colorful-ish language in there. It's not too bad. Right? But cultural differences. We tend to judge people based on our own perspective. We don't necessarily recognize or acknowledge that they see things differently. So even though we're all people in the Caribbean, people of color for the most part, right? We share some cultural nuances. So I use this as an example, and think of it also in the workplace. You're trying to interact with people from different backgrounds.
You ask a Jamaican to perform CPR. Dog, you look away, you know, you alright? Yo, I want to tell them. Feeling nauseous, yo. I think it's that weed, man. Marias. Dog, you know CPR, yo? No more to more thing, man. Them boy have bowers in the mind. Perform CPR. Good boy. Boy, get boy. Anybody know CPR yet? One thing. The man just black out here, boy. You know CPR?
That's major hype. Right? So cultural differences, even throughout the Caribbean. And yes, I know there's some colorful language in there, but I want you to also feel how you react and how you respond to that. Some of it might even make you feel uncomfortable, and it's deliberate. It's deliberate on my part. Right? So now, we're into the final leg of the relay. I started off by a dub plate by Beanie Man, Sim Simmer, who have the keys to my bimmer. Right? I'm about to give you guys the keys to life. Anybody ready? Now we're going to pass over that. Keys to life. Anybody ready? Wait, hold on. I'm offering you the keys to life. Nobody sounds very excited. To life, not to a bimmer. Ready? What I say? You prefer the bimmer keys? Keys to life. Keys to life, number 1. First key to life. All humans are emotional beings. Including men. Thank you. Yeah, man. Round of applause for that. So in Jamaica, we're grown as men to be tough. Right? Bad man no cry. There's a song called Bad Man No Cry. Right? But all humans are emotional beings. Every single boy picnic that was born cried when they came out of their mother. Right? All emotional beings. But what do emotions look like? Emotions are a real thing. So sometimes we just kind of take it as a joke. Here's a heat map of what emotions look like. From the top left, anger, fear, disgust, happiness, sadness, surprise, neutral, no emotion, anxiety, love,